Imagine this is a retreat. Someone has removed you from your normal environment and placed you here. Tropical, with fantastically exotic birds, animals, kangaroos, and Australian huge reptiles, among other lovely things. This environment is highly exotic for those of you who have traveled from farther locations. If you aren't from this region, you might not have ever seen trees like them. This is all really great and will be of great use. Being in a strange place can help you be more present, which is a life skill. This is the beauty of traveling. You get to experience new and different places. Many people report feeling more energized after a trip, as I've mentioned before. They become totally absorbed in their home environment when they're there. Things are no longer visible to them. After making the journey from their home to their business, or wherever it may be, countless times, they no longer notice it. It's possible that you have a painting hanging on your wall that you haven't glanced at in 3 years, even though you're in your typical environment at home. It may be stunning, just like your garden or the flora growing there. Because of the familiarity, one could enter a semi-sleepy condition. A traveler often exclaims, "Oh!" The bright side is that you may be completely at a loss for words when you encounter so many novel things. Here, you may not even be familiar with the names of the items you see, in contrast to your familiar surroundings at home. If you encounter an unusual animal and are unable to identify it, your thoughts may come to a halt. It's very delightful. Alternately, you could come upon trees you've never seen before and exclaim, "Ah!" Or you might just tell your pal, "Look at that!" Because you don't know its name, you might not be mentally naming it as you gaze at it. For a few seconds or two, you focus on being in the presence itself rather than on the person whose name is being called. By the time you reach the final day, I hope you won't have grown accustomed to this environment to the point where you stop looking. A good method to enter the present moment, the reason we're here, is to pay close attention to what your senses are telling you. More is going on right now than most of us give it credit for, whilst it's the key that unlocks a secret door to a more profound part of your soul. Surprisingly, I think it would be a good idea for you to try living in the here and now as a broad, overarching theme for our retreat. If you don't happen to reside within a short distance of this location, we have this handy fact. You are in an unfamiliar environment. Then it could be more difficult, or you could even be living next door. Despite being removed from your typical environment, you have brought something else along, your thinking. Anywhere you go, your thoughts will accompany you. Maybe that's the book's intended message. Whenever you go, there you are, is the title, I think. Consequently, your mental state and the habits you've developed within it follow you wherever you go. Here on our retreat, we will be focusing on helping you overcome mental conditioning, which includes habitual ways of thinking, reacting, and interpreting. If you tend to be dissatisfied with your current situation on a regular basis, it will manifest here as well. Despite being in such beautiful and exotic surroundings, if your thought pattern is one that enjoys criticizing and finding fault with things, it is highly probable that this pattern will also emerge here very soon. The dinosaurs might be your initial gripe. The rational mind responds, "I prefer to view a large Buddha or an image similar to that." This place is perfect for our spiritual retreat, our minds tell us. Somewhere there ought to be a Buddha, right? Out of the blue, you get things that aren't what you were hoping for. Because the conditioned mind is so used to having its expectations fulfilled, that presents a challenge to that mind. They become anxious, restless, agitated, and even furious if they aren't satisfied. Either internally or externally, it begins to express its dissatisfaction. It would be great if other people could see things your way. On the other hand, you could just post your opinion online and instantly have 1,000 people echo it. Some of you, maybe even a couple of you, will always exhibit that pattern of complaints. I don't mean that you shouldn't try to fix things if they're truly broken. You shouldn't simply claim, "I'm not going to say anything because I'm not supposed to complain," while something is leaking in your room. You simply inform reception that there's something there that needs to be rectified. Yes, of course. Here is some information. It is not a complaint. When someone complains, it's because they're feeling something, like, "This should not be happening." Complaints or statements like, "It's your fault," follow. After, then, it turns into a gripe. No criticism is necessary if all that is being presented is factual facts. The next issue then arises. Is there any way to fix it? Then that's great. Their alternative response could be, "We're powerless to help." Are you going to continue expressing your strong disapproval and bring yourself unnecessary pain? Is it more your style to just say, "This is what is"? Unless you count the dinosaurs, there is no such thing as an ideal natural setting, and that includes retreats in beautiful, nearly perfect locations. All you can think of is the abundance of mindfulness and vitality all around you. Not only is it not flawless, but it is more amazing than anything you could ever dream of. The dinosaurs weren't the only reason. Other objects will also have their flaws. Nobody can tell you where to go because everything is just so perfect. It is non-existent. If it were real, you'd get so sick of hearing, "This is so perfect." Fortunately, there is no such place. Therefore, whatever I try from here on out will inevitably fail, which is a beautiful thing. Life has been difficult for me ever since my birth, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that. You never know where you'll end up, and it's not often that you have a brief respite from difficulties, only to have something symbolically fall on your head or behind you. To practice this, try to imagine a world where everything is supposed to go according to plan, and where the outside world doesn't deviate from the conditioned mind's ideal. Because, in the end, reality rarely matches up with your mental aspirations. That leads to misery. Depending on your perspective, it can work or not work on a retreat and in everyday life. As you may have observed, it's always the same stupid thing. Next comes the idea that "I can't take anymore," which is, of course, just another totally false concept. Anything is within your reach if you can only let go of your thoughts and accept this is what is. Here, you train yourself to let go of mental expectations and instead live in harmony with the present moment, with your inner self, rather than wishing for a different outcome. The one exception to this rule is communicating in a way that allows for a change, if such a change is possible. Doing it yourself, cleaning it up, doing this, and that are all acceptable alternatives. That's all right, but aside from that, here is where you may practice living in harmony with the isness of the present moment and honoring it as a spiritual discipline. Appreciate the here and now more fully. Make the most of your time here by appreciating what is happening right now. You embrace the here and now, to use an alternative term. Not only that, but it's not hard to accomplish that here. It's not that we don't know about imperfections. We do. However, being in this safe environment makes it easier to appreciate the here and now. Compared to being in a busy airport with canceled flights, stuck somewhere, or in the hospital, this would be simpler. Then, events, both large and tiny, take place in all places you go. One way to tap into your spiritual side, to that which exists beyond your own ego is to make an effort to fully embrace the here and now. That should serve as your practice here. It's nearly too easy. Someone once told a Zen instructor, "I'm going away now on a journey for several years." You might recall that I brought it up once or twice before. Plus, I've spent 5 years in this monastery without success, so I must be missing something. Would you be so kind as to allow me to rehearse for my journey? All right, here is your spiritual practice for your journey, the Zen teacher remarked. Please report back to me in 5 years on how things turned out. Express your gratitude for everything, no matter where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, or what happens. There is absolutely nothing wrong with me. Is it the end? A fictitious religious ceremony, an intricate form of meditation that requires years of effort to become proficient in. Make it your spiritual practice to say thanks for everything, he advised instead. No matter what occurs, I will not have any complaints. I have absolutely no complaints whatsoever, so whether you catch the bus or miss it, you catch it. And thank everyone. I am quite grateful. I am not complaining in the least. You failed to catch the bus. Thank you very much. I am very satisfied with everything, and here you are, lying warmly in a beautiful hotel room. Or you're stuck in the freezing weather with no place to rest. Not only does it become increasingly difficult to express, but if you truly mean it, it is meaningless to say it. Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. Sounds nice when you're in a 5-star hotel, but when you're living on the streets with nothing but your words, it will carry you far further. That's not too difficult. You may also argue that the cushion isn't perfect, yet it is. Say it when you're freezing in the cold because you can't afford a hotel. It's easier said than done. There are no motels, no place to stay. The weather is chilly and damp, and I am grateful for everything. I appreciate it in a sarcastic way. Thanks God, it's just what I needed. Thanks God, it's just what I needed. Thank you, but no, it isn't. It's when you express gratitude, which signifies fully embracing this very moment. All right, I guess I might as well just accept it for the rest of tonight since I'm going to be out in the cold. I don't know for sure. You might be lucky and locate a spot to sleep in a minute, or someone might even offer you a ride. Thank you for everything, but especially for this very second. A sincere expression of gratitude here signifies total surrender to the present moment. And it's even more profound than embracing an easy moment if you can embrace one that appears hard to accept. With a delicious dinner, a cocktail in hand, and the appetizer ordered, oysters, harper, anything, some people adore them, others despise them. But that's just the way most people think. So they can say things like, "Oh, that's okay," and express gratitude for things like oysters and the fact that they don't have any complaints. And then you get home only to be hit with an overwhelming nausea. You must have thought, "Thanks for everything, I have no complaint," right? As you savored each oyster. You had a few oysters too many, so what happens now? Basically, it's about bringing your inner self in harmony with the here and now. An extremely potent religious ceremony. Why does it have such an impact, particularly when you say it with sincerity, despite how difficult it is? A more profound, transcendent sense of self, which the Buddhists refer to as no self, undeniably emerges in the process of total surrender to what is, as it supersedes the individual's solely subjective sense of self. Thus, in essence, it's a denial of your form identity. You are no longer limited to your form identity alone, but it doesn't imply you lose it either. Being able to stand in opposition to what is strengthens one's form identity. A person's me, their form identity, or the me, grows in strength in proportion to the degree to which they resist the status quo. Your profile picture, and it's quite happy when you have opponents, a lot of enemies. The force increases. Everyone is out to get me or us. Assuming it's a group ego, that group ego will love its opponents. Without them, it would essentially perish. All group egos rely on one another. No, not us. We are this, and they are that. That something else arises as the individual, the uniquely individualized sense of self, weakens and fades away. That is the beautiful thing. Something transcending your individual identity arises if you cease to consistently disagree with something. Whatever we want to name it, the transcendental dimension is there. You might refer to it as your deeper self or higher self, depending on who you ask. Something emerges that transcends the individual, and words lose their significance. You are connected to a vastness and to everybody else there, and it is also a location of enormous strength, aliveness, and possibility. Therefore, a deeper sense of oneness is experienced when emotion, that transcendent dimension, emerges. The wall of separation between people and the natural world has come tumbling down. The otherness of alien people is no longer felt by you. You are merely assuming a different persona. That's what you'll learn through time. You are in every person you encounter, only under a different mask. It's a great way to connect with other people, isn't it? The fact that you might feel not just linked to the world, but also intrinsically one with all living things. Your desire to learn and develop as a person is at the core of your decision to view this video. To help you along your path of self-discovery, we upload new videos daily, so be sure to subscribe to our channel. If you find this message meaningful, please respond with the word "now." And the two of us can accomplish this.